When the rays of the sun first fight back that relentless grip of winter, and you go out and you feel the warmth in your bones and drive those country roads, where do they take you? Today, those roads are likely to take us somewhere that looks a little bit like this. So if you're interested in joining us for a sappy, syrupy, sugary adventure chock full of scenery, I hope you'll stick around. Welcome to the bucolic roads of Ohio. That January and February have been hard months of bitter, biting cold and unrelenting snowfall. But the first 2 weeks of March, they trudged in with a warmth determined to melt even the chilliest of icicles. For the last couple of weeks, Bill and I had been trading back and forth the implacable illnesses that rampaged across the Ohio countryside that winter. But today was the first day we both felt we had the energy to get out and finally enjoy the early spring warmth. And where did those dirt roads take us today? They took us to nearby Malabar Farm. In 1938, Pulitzer Prize-winning author Louis Bromfield bought 3 worn-out farms in the Richland Valley of Ohio. With the help of an architect, he then took a small farmhouse on that land and turned it gradually into this 32-room big house. During Bromfield's day, this house would have been swarming with visitors, including people like Humphrey Bogart and Lauren Bacall, who married there in 1945. But Bromfield didn't create Malabar Farm simply for socializing. He also created the farm to showcase sustainable agriculture. Bromfield took the greatly deteriorated farmland and transformed it using practices like the use of cover crops, contour plowing, and large-scale composting. The Malabar Farm State Park is often an uncrowded and quiet destination, but not today. Today, the parking lots were crowded and the people were plentiful, because who can resist coming to visit such a place on the 2 weekends of the Maple Syrup Festival? Bromfield himself was an avid producer of maple syrup. He used traditional methods, such as tapping the trees, using metal buckets to collect sap, and boiling that sap in a wood-fired evaporator to produce maple syrup. If you come to Malabar Farm State Park during the Maple Syrup Festival each year, you can see all of those practices still in action. Just don't be surprised if you've got a lot of company while you're here.
I always start with a little quiz to see how smart my class is. So nod your head if you can identify a maple leaf. How about down there? Got any nodding heads? Here's a clue. It's the one in the middle. Well, we're not talking about just any old maple tree, folks, because there are more than 200 varieties of maple trees worldwide, but only the 14 species that are native to North America. That's the only place, those 14 species are the only maple trees in the world that have sap that is sweet.
We're making whiskey.
And the sweetest of all of those is the sugar maple tree. And we have a wood-fired evaporator, so you're going to see Brandon throwing wood in there. It eventually moves down to the front pan, which is the finishing pan. It has a flat bottom on it. There's a couple inches of sap turning into syrup inside of there. They know that sap boils into finished syrup when it reaches a temperature of 7 degrees above the boiling temperature of water. There's a lot of science involved in maple syrup making, isn't there? Isn't that cool? 7 degrees above the boiling temperature of water. So let's keep an eye on this dial. When it reaches that 7 and holds there, it's probably finished syrup at 66% sugar.
How are you all?
Good. How are you today?
Are we live?
Congrats.
No, you're definitely not live.
Oh, that's right. I'm now on YouTube.
You're now on YouTube.
And this was the way they used to tap them. they would get these reeds, hollow them out, and drive them into the tree like this, and get it before the Europeans got here.
I'd have to say that that's pretty darn cool that Native Americans were making maple syrup by boiling sap with hot rocks and a log long before Europeans
At
arrived.
this point, I know it's syrup. I open the valve, take it out, let the pan fill back up with fresh sap, and it just starts running.
Do you miss your horse? Our next stop at the Maple Syrup Festival was the Pugh Cabin, a Shawshank Redemption movie site that was selling maple products. But the line here was not short, so Bill and Taylor found a way to pass the time. Are you having fun over here?
It reminds me of sucking on an orange
Okay.
with a little bit of bird poop in it.
Wow. When was the last time you tasted some bird poop?
That's how I would imagine it.
Oh my goodness gracious, that's awful.
You want to hit?
No, absolutely not after that description, I don't. There you go.
Should we get some fetch?
Do you have money?
I'm married to you.
If you take a short hike into the woods near the Sugar Shack and Pugh Cabin, you can also find today's maple syrup technology in action. These sap gathering tubes aren't nearly as pretty as those old metal buckets, but they're a lot more functional. Can you hear any sugar? Is it? Oh, I see what you're saying. It's just the water holding it to the tree. And if you take a short 5-minute walk the other way from the cabin and Sugar Shack, you can find one of my favorite places here.
Which way are we going now?
There's another passage. I never noticed that. Jones, big rock falls in the chasm.
Oh, I hope not. Then I didn't even have to use my broken foot.
This is the most well-traveled fudge ever.
Yes, it is. Well-traveled fudge. That's something new. I never thought about well-traveled fudge before. Here you go. I gotta zoom it all the way in so we can see the you know, I hate to say it, but it looks like a big bag of dog poop.
It does.
It's not. It's well-traveled fudge. All right, let's see if I can make it the rest of the way up without falling down and breaking something else new. Because there's still a bunch of snow on the ground here. You can look below me. Bunch of snow. So this is Butternut Cave. It's not really a cave. It's kind of a crevice that just goes through the rock that has some top over it, but usually you can look up and see light in different directions. It's really short. Might be 50 yards, but you definitely have to do some rock scrambling. There's a part at the end that if you can't get your leg up high enough, you're not going to get out. You got to go out the way you came in. It's in the 50s outside here today, but I'd say that cave's a lot colder. There's a whole lot of thick pieces of ice still left in there. So, but just a cool little stop at Malabar. It's a very short walk from the Pugh Cabin and the Sugar Shack. And you get some beautiful woods. So they're kind of torn up. We had tornadoes through here a couple years ago, and you can still see the evidence of it. And speaking of damage, we had to give Taylor a hard time about these tires. That's from Ozarks.
Yes.
Looks like you did it.
You really believe that's all from Ozarks?
Yes, and I'm
How many months ago was that?
by it.
Can you do math better
Math
than your
is
dad?
hard.
Am I gonna get it here by
When was
chance?
that? September? October.
End of September.
I'm just waiting real patiently.
Taylor's trying to do math. Don't hurt her brain.
Yeah, does this remember? 7? 7, no.
Is it? 9 to 10 to 11 to 12 to 1 to 2.
She's adding more numbers to the math.
It's like 5.5 months.
Okay, so
It's not that long.
6 months if you're rounding up.
And you think you did all this in the Ozarks?
Yeah, I do.
Alrighty then.
We're standing by it.
But whether that extreme road rash came from the Ozarks 5.5 months ago or from something else, we may never know. But it really didn't matter because the Bronco, she drove fine regardless of the condition of her shoes. Malabar Farm is about 900 acres of fields, forests, and ravines. It may be a state park, but the state of Ohio continues to operate it as a working farm. On a visit, you can tour the big house, see the farm animals, fish in the lakes, hike the trails, or ride your horse along the many miles of equestrian trails. The park also has a small campground with 15 primitive sites. Less than 10 miles from Malabar, you can also find the scenic roads that pass through the Mohican State Park and Mohican-Memorial State Forest. All right, no stupid shoes today. I might not have my stupid shoes on today, but this is a stupid long stairway. You having fun with that pitch?
And the knees are going to love this going back.
No, they're
I
not.
think I mentioned that.
I think you probably did too.
They're all vultures, I think.
27 black dots. Do they know something we don't? Today I think they were just having fun riding the thermals. Mohican State Park includes a little over 1,100 acres of hills, woodlands, and ravines, with the iconic covered bridge at its heart. The park is home to miles of hiking trails, mountain biking trails, an archery range, a swinging bridge, a fire tower, several waterfalls, scenic viewpoints, a large Class A campground, rental cabins, a small primitive campground, and the wide, wandering Clear Fork of the Mohican River. The recreational opportunities here are also complemented by the 4,500 acres of the surrounding Mohican-Memorial State Forest, which boasts miles of equestrian and hiking trails. The two overlooks over the Clear Fork Gorge are a park favorite. The Ohio Sasquatch. What's the difference between the Ohio Sasquatch and the Utah Sasquatch? Do you know?
The Utah Sasquatch is much happier.
Is the Utah Sasquatch much happier? During our lives, Bill and I have both lived out west for various numbers of years in different places. But I'll tell you this, as much as I love going out to enjoy the canyon lands and mountains and views of the west, I always long just a little bit to return to the hills, greenery, and deciduous forests of Ohio.
What's up, Gary?
So what were you saying, Bill?
I'm kind of amazing.
Kind of amazing. You're the one who does all of the filming and all of the editing and all of the
I don't do any
voiceover.
editing because it sucks. That's your job.
Thanks. Thanks. I love that. Thanks for joining us on our trip through the Ohio countryside to the Maple Syrup Festival of Malabar Farm and the views of Mohican. But before we wrap up this video, since we took Tristan out to dinner last time, it's now Taylor's turn. So you didn't make this on the camp stove?
Yes, I did.
We didn't even bring the vehicle with the
came in
camp
here so I could
stove.
use their table.
In the meantime, until we see you again, I hope you go out and find your own adventure. Are you sure? Preferably one that doesn't involve a broken foot. Yeah, I'm still working on this whole walking on the healing foot. That was me falling in the cornfield. I'll just blame that on why I just fell down in a cornfield. When it's perfectly flat ground. It is what it is. Onward.